Hey there, folks. Hope you're doing well today. Today, we wanted to take a look at how the far right are looking at and talking about the Alex Pretti shooting, as well as look at a new civil war that broke out on the right over this topic between Nick Fuentes and Dave Smith. But first, let's start with Nick Fuentes, as he gives us the perspective of him and his Groypers into this situation.
You feel bad about this lesbian poet and Alex Pretti, the male nurse? You feel sorry for these race traitors that laid down their life in defense of this scheme?
Okay, so we see he's trying to cast Alex Pretti as a race traitor. So let's keep in mind, right? Nick Fuentes is a Mexican white nationalist. In fact, here's what he said about his parents on a recent Piers Morgan interview.
Well, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in LaGrange Park, as you say. My parents are ethnics. My father's half Mexican, half Irish. My mother's Italian.
Okay, and so there we hear him actually refer to his parents as ethnics. Regardless, his father is Mexican. And again, Nick is a leader of a white nationalist movement. If anyone here was a race traitor, it would be Nick Fuentes. But this is the logic they have. All they can do is troll. Let's hear what else he has to say.
These are full-grown adults. We are in the post-COVID era. We are thoroughly in the Trump era. If you don't get it at this point, you're irredeemable. If you're out there throwing yourself in front of ICE to die for these dirtbags, let them. Let them. One less asshole in the world. One less traitor in the world. That's what I say.
Okay, so if you were watching his hand, you would have caught the little Roman salute, Nazi salute dog whistles he's doing there, while he's talking about let them die. Again, at the moment of the shooting, Alex was practicing his First and Second Amendment rights. And sure, federal officers had the opportunity to charge him based on what he did to their police car, but they did not have the right to shoot him. The federal agents don't get to be the judge or the executioner. Now, let's take a look at how Dave Smith got in the crosshairs of the Groypers. This is a clip from a Groyper that goes by Atlas Thug as he gives some background into the Dave Smith situation. Let's take a look.
Now that not only one, but two far-left agitators have been fatally shot by law enforcement, libertarians like Dave Smith started expressing extreme discontent with the administration.
Was it Matt Walsh came in? He told me I'm siding with the open borders communists. Like, what?
And it's not just libertarians. A growing group of Republicans are also falling to the pressures from the media to back down on mass deportations. They call themselves the Problem Solver Caucus, or more accurately, a bunch of traitors.
And again, when you start seeing federal agents violating people's constitutional rights, and then the federal government lying about it, people are not going to be cool with that, especially libertarians. But to call the people standing up for the Constitution traitors, again, these people have to live in bizarro world for this shit to make sense. And later in this video, you're going to see Atlas Thug be presented with information that demonstrates why his ideas are flawed, and he's going to straight up say, I don't care. But this is what happens when you live in a world without critical thinking. You're able to abandon logic, abandon evidence, especially when you're a white nationalist and you don't have any values or principles or morals. Now, let's take a look at the tweet that got Dave in the crosshairs of the Groypers.
The tweet in question from Dave that Nick is going to respond to came in the afternoon hours after Pretti had been shot. Dave signaling that he believes in deportations as an immigration restrictionist, but that ICE is out of effing control. They're pussies who are drunk on power and are intentionally escalating interactions. Also adding that they create these tragic situations and not the other way around.
Okay, so when you break down Dave's statement, right, he's talking about ICE being out of control, drunk on power, a bunch of pussies, escalating violent interactions, intimidating U.S. citizens. There's evidence of that. Right? Dave is giving his subjective opinion on his observations that we can all agree exist. If the federal agents wanted to detain Alex Pretti for what he previously did to the car, they could have easily just handcuffed him. His hand was up. One of his hands was holding the phone while his other hand was in the air. They instead escalated the situation by having 6 federal agents wrestle him to the ground. Again, this is where you get this idea that they're a bunch of pussies.
Even if you support exactly the way Trump was doing it and support ICE and think we need to send them into Minnesota and we need to go after the maybe 200,000 illegal immigrants in Minnesota, like that's such a high priority for whatever reason, which no one can exactly explain, you would still go, oh, that's a bad shooting. That should be investigated. I don't have to lie and say the guy was attacking the law enforcement or whatever. You'd go, oh, yeah. No, you still, even if you're conducting mass deportations, like, yeah, you still can't disarm a guy and then just empty 9 bullets into him when he's on the ground.
But to be fair to Dave, he addressed this clip specifically, saying it was from before the video footage came out, but that he's still mad about it because of how the administration initially responded. And I'm here to tell you right now, I do not care.
Now let's hear what Nick, the race-trading white nationalist, has to say about all this.
You know, I like Dave, love him, everything like that. But he posts this tweet and he goes, ICE are pussies. They're thugs. You know, I support deportations, but not like this. It's like, Dave. Hey, man, Earth to Dave. This is an intervention. You're a libertarian, right? You want us to have liberty in the Constitution. How do you have liberty in the Constitution? We have 30 million illegal aliens and birthright citizenship. These people don't speak English. You think they're going to protect the First and Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights? You think they're going to protect any of that? How does that make sense? I mean, even if you're a libertarian, we got to get these people the fuck out. You're a libertarian, you know, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. You think you got a right to run up to a cop with a gun and spit on him and kick his car?
So again, we just see examples of completely flawed logic. Nick is talking about protecting First and Second Amendment rights. Who protected Alex's First and Second Amendment rights? He was a U.S. citizen. And then finally, we see him landing on this idea that if you're going to go up and kick a car, an adequate response is to get shot in the back 5 times while disarmed. Again, they could have easily detained Alex and handcuffed him. They were the ones who escalated the situation. They were the ones that shot an unarmed man 6 times in the back. They were the ones that violated his First and Second Amendment rights. Now, it is Nick Fuentes, right, the race-trading white nationalist, so of course he has to add some anti-Semitism to the bit. Let's take a look.
You got a right to run up to a cop with a gun and spit on him and kick his car? Dave, they gotta die. Dave, my friend, they have to die. I mean, they have to be killed by the cops. Even a libertarian should be able to recognize when somebody should be killed by the state. Guys like Dan Bilzerian, Jake Shields, they go, well, but ICE was trained by the IDF. Who cares? Who cares? If the IDF is training ICE to kill shitlibs, hey, well, at least they're learning from the best, man. Honestly. Wake me up when they're killing anti-Semites. Then I'll have a problem.
Okay, now let's take a look over at the Daily Wire. Specifically Matt Walsh, who's talking about, well, if we see Trump back down in any way, this is the end of his presidency. And that could be anything from pulling the National Guard out to changing leadership, both things we've since seen Donald Trump do. Let's take a look at the clip.
For Trump, I think that for sure, and this cannot be stressed enough, it is a massive, massive, massive loss and failure if Trump scales back at all in the slightest bit in response to what's happening in Minneapolis. You can, I mean, I don't think it's exaggerating to say if he does that, it's the end of his presidency. It could very well be the end of any hopes for Republicans even in the next presidential election. You can. What message does that send? The only message that sends to the left is like, okay, well, here's the formula. If we don't want actual deportations, mass deportations, if ICE shows up in your city and you think they're doing too much, well, just get all your buddies together, show up and get out there in the street, start rioting, cause chaos. Yeah, bring your gun with you. To the people, especially on the right. Again, there are some on the right who are saying, well, I believe in enforcing immigration law, but I don't like the way this is happening. Well, there is no way to do it that won't be ugly, because it's easy enough to say, let's enforce our immigration laws. But the problem is we have millions of people here illegally. And so we need them to leave. And the problem is, well, they don't want to leave. That's why they're here. And so the only way to get them to leave is to grab them physically and drag them while they're kicking and screaming. There is no nice way to do it. And so if you're not in favor of us enforcing immigration laws in an ugly way, then you're not in favor of us enforcing immigration law at all, because there's no way to do it that isn't ugly.
And so, again, what we see here isn't unity. It's cannibalism. Libertarians, conservatives, nationalists, all tearing each other apart the moment one of them tries to live in reality. That's not a movement with principles. That's a movement held together by rage, turning inward because rage has nowhere else to go.